Hi everyone. I know the lighting is a little bit effed up, but I'm trying this new thing where I film at night to test the video quality, and if it's good and you guys enjoy it this way, I can turn up more videos. Because I feel like the heat waves are really getting in the way of my filming, I film in my room, and this room is actually like the designated hot room in the house. Because as in right now, we are experiencing an extreme heat wave in my country. I mean, just yesterday, a few blocks away where I live, there was a wildfire, and it was the legit most wildest thing I've ever heard so far. Like, I've never ever experienced a wildfire actually so close to where I live. So, like, according to the firemen, this had happened twice in a week already, and oh my god, it's so crazy. Global warming is real, and performative activism like switching off your lights for Earth War is just not gonna cut it. So reduce plastic use, walk where you can, eat locally grown food, and save the planet, everyone. So yes, hello again everyone. Today we are gathered here to once again celebrate books, and the book that we are reviewing today is A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. Now, this book was published back in 2016. It's actually a beloved novel and it's a wildly popular one. It went on to reach the New York Times bestsellers list that year. And as you might have guessed from the title, the book takes place entirely in Russia, which is quite controversial in this time, if you ask me. However, Amor Towles, as far as I've read, he doesn't have any connections to Russia, and he happens to be an American author. And the events of this book, while it does take place in a real-life timeline, it is just a historical depiction and in no way celebrates for that guy. So the book centers around Count Rostov, an aristocrat who, during the time of the Bolsheviks, was sentenced to a lifetime of exile in the famous metropole. Now, for those who aren't familiar with Russian history, like myself, I'd like to inform you that the Bolsheviks are absolutely real. They rose to power after the end of the Romanov dynasty and marked the end of the Tsarist rule. In fact, it was the Bolsheviks that paved the way for the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. The Hotel Metropole, where the book is actually set on, is actually a real place too. It was built way back in the 1800s and is positioned right at the heart of Moscow. So other than these two settings and the overall timeline of the book, the characters, including Count Rostov, are all fictional. Now, as for the actual storyline, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, like, in my opinion, it doesn't really have a solid plot or actual linear structure. It follows a non-linear structure. I mean, yes, we follow the Count as the world around him changes, but there's no actual conflict in this book. Instead, we as a reader are led from one scene to another. We meet one character after another. Sometimes their storylines overlap, and overall they play like this grand purpose in wrapping up the story. Now, without actually spoiling the plot of the book, I'm going to try my best to convey my thoughts on The Gentleman in Moscow to you guys. Is it Moscow though, or Moscow? Now, this isn't really a spoiler if you've read some of the premise of A Gentleman in Moscow. The Count does encounter a special young girl named Nina in this book, and she happens to be the daughter of a Ukrainian bureaucrat, I believe, and they develop such a sweet bond. Like the world around them, Nina's life changes along with the Count's. I would say among all the characters in this book, and this book really has a lot, Nina does impact Count Rostov's life the most. How that transpires, I'll just leave it to you guys to find out. There are also other interesting subplots in this novel that's really worth immersing yourself into. If there's one word to describe this book, I mean, I just think that it's super rich. The descriptions Towles uses to describe the metropole, and I know it's a realistic place, so he has a lot of material to work with, but the way he writes about the metropole and its restaurants like the Boyarsky and the Piazza are just so descriptive. It almost feels like you are there. There is also several mentions of different classes of wine, and that's very central to the story. There is one wine brand which I'll just show on screen because I cannot pronounce it to save my life. Of course, the grandeur of the metropole never really fades. Things like war and conflict and political climate might bring that grandeur down, but the stories that run through its walls are forever. I think what also makes A Gentleman in Moscow so charming and rich is Count Rostov himself. I know that this book is actually turning into a series starring Ewan McGregor, and I really can't think of anyone who can bring the signature charm of Rostov better than him. So I'm really excited for that. And it's really hard to describe the Count in just a few words. He is the type of character who has this hunger and search for purpose, but at the same time, he's so understandably human. He feels the stress of his current situation and at times almost succumbs to it. And the people that actually surround Count Rostov, the characters that surround him, are so unforgettable. Everyone from Nina, Sophia, Anna, everybody who works in the hotel, even the antagonistic bishop, everyone is so unforgettable. You'll just feel so sad when you end the book and have to say goodbye to these characters. And if you're a history buff, you actually get a closer understanding of the Bolsheviks and how their overthrowing of the Russian government had eventually led to class struggles in Russia at that time. In fact, the very reason, and this isn't a spoiler, this is actually on the premise, the reason why Count Rostov was sent to exile was because of his noble birth status. Overall, I think Amor Towles is such a master craftsman in weaving these elements together. They never really feel overwhelming, which makes me a little bit excited to check out his other novels. I know that he has another novel that's also set in the 20th century called The Lincoln Highway, I believe, and I can't wait to check that out. That all said, I have to say that this book would better suit advanced readers. I've seen some people complain about how boring and tedious it sometimes feels to read. And no, I totally get where these people are coming from. Those are very valid comments anyone could have about this book. At times, a scene might feel so stretched out, and just the jumping from one storyline to another might be so hard to keep up at times. In fact, in my opinion, I feel like that's why it kind of loses a star for me. I did give it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Another reason why it wasn't a perfect 5-star read for me is because some of the dialogue seemed to be so philosophical. Paulo Coelho level of philosophical. It just takes away the humanity or like the realness of the characters. It can go from paragraph to paragraph with just this type of writing that it can get a little bit overwhelming. So yes, that's what I thought of the book, and that's my spoiler-free review. I hope you guys enjoy it. As for my current read, I am now reading All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham, and I'm halfway through that. I'm loving that book so far, and as I've said before, I'm always on the hunt for a good thriller, and this one is actually turning out to be pretty good. I can't wait to do a review. And don't forget, if you like this video, please do leave a like and hit that subscribe button. It really helps my channel grow. And yes, if you do have a requested book, leave a comment or send me a message on any of my social media channels. I do have my Instagram linked below, and I'll make sure to check that out. So that's it for me tonight, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!